In this video, we are going to be talking about the film noir Born to Kill, which was directed by Robert Wise and starred Lawrence Turney and Claire Trevor. And we're also going to be discussing whether this is one of the most psychologically complex film noirs ever. My guest today is film YouTuber Aaron Pynn, and today he has chosen Born to Kill to talk about. So Aaron, thanks again for we're live, of course, in Sydney.
So it's fantastic. I love the movie Born to Kill. 1947, Lawrence Tierney, Claire Trevor. I guess Tierney was coming right off of Dillinger, which was kind of a lower budget, extremely low budget film, and it kind of blew up. So for me, this was one that I wanted to talk about. It's brutal. It's very different from a lot of film noir, and this was going to be Tierney's his big breakthrough film. This was a huge deal for Tierney. Unfortunately, if you see the movie, you've seen the movie, but if people are there, have seen the movie, Tierney's not acting.
No.
In Born to Kill. That was Tierney.
Yeah.
And it's a very fascinating, interesting character.
Yeah.
And very ahead of its time for a lot of what it did.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was quite shocked by how brutal it was. And just in case anyone hasn't seen it, I'll just give a brief summary from IMDb. It's a calculating divorcee risks her chances at wealth and security with a man she doesn't love by getting involved with the hot-headed murderer romancing her foster sister. Which is pretty twisted.
Yeah.
In terms of plot. Just before we jump into the film, what's your relationship to noir? How did you get into film noir?
Well, like a lot of people my age, which means older, don't like dinosaur age. Basically, I'm from Canada and CBC late night. So usually from used to be Monday to Thursday, and then sometimes on Fridays they'd have a film you could watch late at night, and it would end the day. That would be the movie, and that would be it. So there was a lot of film noir that would come on. They would show a lot of stuff, a lot of Joan Crawford films, a lot of Humphrey Bogart, and you get the Universal Monsters and Hammer stuff, of course, around that time. But I just got into that style of film. I'm a very visual person, so I like the way that it was shot. I like the shadows and the camera angles. I love the kind of the tragic, kicked when you're down type of thing that film noir has.
Yeah.
And I've always been a fan of that. It's just been something. Film noir, giallo, and the slasher genre were the three things that I gravitated to, very early on. And I guess a lot of it had to do with I was a voracious reader. So I read a lot of Raymond Chandler when I was young, and I read a lot of I read a lot of my camera books. So it was just kind of an extension of that. So for me, film noir initially was those novels that I read, those pulpish novels, and when I was able to actually as a kid see them come alive on screen, to see the Dashiell Hammett stuff, the Glass Key stuff, like that, come alive on screen, and I think it was Out of the Past that really got me into it, which ironically was the same year that this one came out. So they both came out in 47.
That's right. Yeah.
So if you ever want to see a film noir that literally, if you've never seen one before and you want to see something that is check is the film noir, then Out of the Past with Robert Mitchum.
Yeah.
Is for me it's the great. But this one here was a bit of an anomaly. The fact that it could do what it did, the fact that it did it in 1947, and that not only was Tierney amazing in this, but we got Esther Howard in a character role, and she was a Preston Sturges actress. She was in a lot of Preston Sturges films.
Right.
She did a lot of comedy. So to see her in this kind of menace in this role, with again anytime I think of film noir, Elijah Cook Jr. tends to find his way
everything.
In there. He is, and he's the film noir guy.
Yeah.
Right up there with Mitchum, he's he's in all those film noirs, and he's particularly menacing in this film. There's the sequence with him and Esther Howard, and you've got these two character actors, and that's what they are. They're character actors, but every time they're on the screen, whatever film they're in, Esther Howard, Elijah Cook Jr., they steal the scene.
Yeah.
And now you got them both working together, walking through a sand dune, stealing the movie. and it's just such a fantastic film. It's so visually stunning as well. But I was totally, as a kid, I was totally in love with Claire Trevor.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. She was really good, and I don't think I've seen a femme fatale portrayed in such a complex manner, because I mean, she has the normal qualities of a woman using her sexuality to get money from a man or to manipulate a man to get what she wants, but at the same time, she's much more disturbed than that. Like she begins to realize, I don't know how you feel about this, that with Lawrence Turney, that she is sexually aroused by the fact that he's a murderer, the fact that he's a killer, the fact that he's dangerous. And I don't think she was so aware of that until that moment where they finally kissed. Because I don't know how you felt about this. When you see them kiss and then he admits that he had killed the girl at the beginning.
Laura Palmer, actually.
Laura Palmer. She admit, and you see the shock. I was a little confused at first. I thought that she was shocked because realizing that he's the murderer, but she already really suspected that anyways from the time they met in San Francisco on the train. Right after finding these bodies and she leaves, she must have been very, very suspicious. So when it came out, I think she was more shocked that it was hitting her, that she was aroused by a guy, by blood, by murder. And I thought, oh my, how did they get that past the censors? And they even say it, like Turney says it to her, you know.
And it's one of the reasons I chose this, and because in a way it twists it a bit, and we get a twist on the femme fatale,
right? Because
Turney, in a way, is the male version of the femme fatale for this film.
That's right.
And she's cold as ice. She's cold and coward. Like he is a force of nature.
Right.
He's very emotional. He goes by his instincts. He's thuggish.
Yeah.
She is much more dangerous than he is.
Yeah.
Although like he does the killing, you know that she has no problem with like maneuvering people like chess pieces.
Yeah.
As will happen later on.
Yeah.
In the film.
She was so much more calculated, and her plans were, well thought out. Whereas, and probably were, from a criminal standpoint, were good plans. Not that I don't know if that's the best way to put it, but he was just someone who just acted and didn't even think of the consequences, and you're right. I mean, I didn't think of it that way.
Think of him, he's the blunt object, and she's the one she's the one kind of holding it. No, that's exactly right. Did you, these things always go over my head. It went over my head in Rope as well, when we talk about certain relationships back then being homosexual. And I don't know if you read this or if you thought this when you were watching it, but his roommate, I forget, what was the actor's name again? Elijah Cook Jr.
Elijah Cook Jr., who was his roommate. They lived together, which back then was less common, and with two men living together. There was one bed, which I didn't notice, but from what I've read, apparently, I don't know if did that pop out to you that there was only one bed in there? Yeah, and there's
there's a power dynamic. As you can see, it's like you can tell that Elijah Cook Jr. has feelings for Lawrence Tierney.
Yeah,
but you're not quite sure if that's ever been. And normally, you could put this off as okay. These were people that went to prison together. They're inmates or something.
But
it's specifically said in the film that Lawrence Tierney's character has never been in prison.
That's right.
So right then you look for a second. Okay, so there's a different dynamic to this relationship.
Yeah.
Then, because they could have played it off like, okay, they were in prison at one point together, but once they establish that he's never been, then it adds a different dynamic to it.
Yeah, it's much more ambiguous because he tells his friend that he kills someone, and Elijah Cook Jr. he reacts as if the guy lost his wallet. He's like, oh man, again, he's kind of like, you can't be doing that. And he's not outraged. He doesn't walk away from him, and you think, what is his stake in this? And then later on, he says to Claire Trevor, when he finds out about this affair that they're having, you need to stop the affair. When that was happening, I thought, again, I must be totally naive. I thought that he was doing that to say, if you guys go any further, this is going to really blow up in your face. Possibly.
Well, he did in a way.
Yeah.
That is kind of what he meant. But there was a jealousy.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But
yeah.
for Tierney now, the jealousy, of course, is the other way. It's basically he thinks that because he's attracted to Claire Trevor, and a lot of like overly jealous people, and I've seen this when I went to college especially, are like, okay, if I'm attracted to this girl, every man is attracted to this girl.
Right.
And that does end up like kind of blowing up in his face.
Yeah.
Like big time, especially with Elijah Cook Jr.'s character.
Yeah, because at that point, what's so clever sometimes I find about the film noirs, particularly this one, that's really both character driven, but at the same time is heavy on plot, because it's very hard to have a strong, complex people when you have very incident driven, as opposed to exploring their relationship where it's mainly about their characters and the plot is always secondary. This has a very calculated, incident driven plot but at the same time you get a real insight into who these people are and their complexities, which, man, that's hard to write.
It was the only person I think that probably got the short end of the shift for this film is probably Audrey Long, who plays the foster sister.
Right.
Because her role is pretty much relegated to the I guess the suffering wife or the wide-eyed spouse, and we don't get to see a lot of her, unfortunately.
Right.
Film. Like when we do see her, she makes an impact, especially near the end of the film.
Right.
But because there's that brilliant scene in the chair, that is just fantastic.
You mean at the end?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, when he's watching. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sit in
Yeah.
the chair,
Yeah.
kind of thing, and it just goes to show how, like, you're seeing like Claire Trevor, and I think right from the beginning, the thing that I found really cold with her character is right from the beginning. This is her friend. She walks in where her friend's dead, and her friend's boyfriend is dead, and the dogs. She just puts the dog in. She closes the door, and like that is ice cold.
Yeah. And you feel for the dogs.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, because I was like, I think this would be a much more of an enriching experience every time you see it, because at first, I find anyways, things that are more psychologically complex, because the writer and the director were not telling you why all this stuff was happening, their choices, until later, it can put you into your head a little bit about like, well, why would she just leave the dog, and how can she not react to such a thing? So I think going back, already seeing that and knowing that, I'm sure I'll probably experience more. But I was quite shocked by that, because she didn't react. She didn't, you see her off the top getting a divorce, which also in the 40s, another reason.
Big deal,
how did they get that at a time when you couldn't even show a married couple in the same bed? Always having, even in the 50s, and this is in the late 40s, in the two single beds. So that was quite something. I don't know how they did it, but she's so cold and so selfish, and doesn't know herself at all. I felt that it's really, and even in the end, she still doesn't learn anything.
I think she does. I think that's the scary part. And I can bounce. I've had relationships like this. I unfortunately, or like early on, I attracted some Claire Trevor type of people.
Oh wow.
Not to that extent, but
right.
like it's along the lines of she knows exactly what she is. It's just facing what she is.
Right.
Like if she didn't, she would have no use for her fiance.
Yeah,
he's her anchor. He's pretty much her anchor to respectful society.
Right.
Like you think, okay, she's there for the money, and like yes, that's part of it. But it's not just the money, and she actually explains it. Is that she's scared of what she would do if she was let free.
Yeah.
And I think that like she is like.
That's a good way of putting it. She knows, but she can't quite.
For me,
try to change it or face it, or
one of the scariest femme fatales that you'll find.
Yeah, I
And,
thought so too. Yeah.
and she is so cool. Like there's people there, like you get the Barbara Stanwyck's there, and you got other actresses that can do these style roles. But Claire Trevor, and I think around a couple years earlier she did Murder My Sweet, right?
Yeah, because that would have been 44,
yeah.
definitely before 47, anyways. Yeah.
So like that would have been, but because I think that there's somebody else actually apparently that was going to be hard for that. Like it's an interesting cast too, because I can't remember the name of the actor that played her fiance, but I do know that he just gotten out of a relationship from Joan Crawford.
I think I wrote it down
At the time, actually.
Yeah. Oh, Philip Terry. Fred,
Terry,
right?
yeah.
Was his name the character?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Philip
he was
Terry.
he would just like in real life, he just gotten out of a relationship with Joan Crawford.
Oh, I didn't know
Around
that.
period of time.
Wow.
So
He's like the only decent character in a sense, because
Yeah.
I mean the foster sister, you know, she comes across as very innocent and sweet, but at the same time, when she calls on Claire Trevor as being selfish for finding the bodies and not doing anything about it, and then her excuse is, well, you know, it's going to get into the tabloids, it's going to hurt the whole family, and then when she realizes it might affect her, and then she's like, oh yeah, you know what?
I think what's really nice about this too is you get a lot of these films, and you'll have the quote unquote nice characters be completely clueless. What I really like about this is that Philip Terry's character is never not in.
Right.
He doesn't want to face it, but right from the beginning you can tell he knows something's off with her, and he knows there's something off with the relationship that she has with Lawrence Tierney's character.
Yeah.
And so when that finally comes to a head, it's satisfying, because he's not put off as this character. Like you'll see, like in Gunkelman and stuff, there'll be like these characters that will be fairly clueless, but he right from the beginning he's like,
that's a good point. Yeah.
Where he doesn't really kind of know, or at least suspect something. And when he realizes, he's okay, that's it. That's my, this is, I know what you are.
Right.
I thought, I was hoping, but I know what you're like inside.
Yeah.
And
he's the only one really with morals.
Yeah.
You know.
And we go back to it like over and over again. Like when she's thinking of it kind of herself, or when Esther Howard says it to her, basically.
Right.
She's rotten on the inside. The way, like he kind of says, you're different. Even her sister kind of says it to her. I know that you don't really love me. You're here for the money. And I guess the one character, and we haven't mentioned him, which we really should.
The detective?
Yeah, Walter Slezak. So Walter Slezak, of course, is
God.
kind of like he's a portlier actor, and he's really good. He's such a great character.
He was great. Yeah.
And he always has those great lines. When we first meet him in the coffee shop, and the guy's like, I love the smell of coffee, but it never tastes as good as it smells. And it's like, yeah, it's the aroma. As you get older in life, you realize the aroma is not the same as what you. It won't be as good as what you.
Yeah.
That's how it smells. Which is,
and of course he owes
line.
money right away. I mean, he's a sleazy detective right off the bat, because he owes a tab that he's making excuses about. And then I'm like, oh, I mean, it was such a beautiful way to introduce that character. But yeah, he's just as bad as anyone else. He's all about money. He's willing to throw out the case for Claire Trevor's Claire Trevor's offer to cover up the fact that Lawrence Tierney had killed the woman early on in the film. And no one, I really, and even the sister who marries Lawrence Tierney, another big, again, she's going on her emotions. Even when she finds out about Tierney, she still wants to help him, stay with him. Yeah. I mean, then again, that could be the heat of the
we got to get him out of here type thing.
Exactly, the heat of the moment. Do you think this, from all the noirs you've seen, do you think this is on a psychological level the most complex with the characters?
Definitely one of the ones up there, if not the most.
Yeah.
And the good thing here is it's strong. Like the characters are strong, even to the point like Walter Slezak's character could have been played off as just this regular sleazy type, kind of a blood simple Ned Beatty like just style character. But he's not. You can see there's a bit more behind his eyes. He's a bit like, he's smarter. He's a bit more complex.
Yeah.
And he knows his worth. When he makes when he says, okay, I want money, he wants $15,000, and she's like, she goes back and forth, and no, water sleeves. And I think it's an important scene because it shows that, you know, he doesn't budge. He knows his worth. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to get. If it doesn't, he is going to do exactly what he says he's going to do. So he's a man of little character, but the character that he has is important to him.
Right.
So here's a guy that's, you know, probably kind of the ambulance chaser type of detective, kind of, you know, always down on his luck type of thing. But first you think, okay, maybe it's because, you know, he's not the smartest, not the brightest. Obviously he is. He figures.
Oh yeah, no, he is. Yeah, and he knows how to take advantage of everything for his own benefit. I mean, even off the top, the woman who hires him, I forget the character. What her name was in the film.
Oh, Esther Howard's character?
Yeah, Esther Howard's. I wrote it down as well.
But she's the one like
Mrs. Kraft.
Yeah, she ran like the boarding house type.
Yeah,
thing.
she runs the boarding house. Of course, she knew the woman who you know, that was killed, and he even gets her to pay, you know, $500 off top or whatever it was, and just fools her because she doesn't know any better. You know, well, I need it for, you know, such and such. But I mean, it's really only Mrs. Kraft and the husband, not the husband, who breaks up with Claire Howard, the fiance, who have some kind of morals.
Yeah.
Well, much more Mrs. Kraft. I mean, you feel so bad for her. I mean, thank God she got away. I mean, I honestly didn't see that coming.
Yeah, because he thought she was going to get killed.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. You know, I just thought that moment where Lawrence Turney comes, just his insecurities and his jealousies, and he's so instinctual. It's hard to believe he hadn't been in prison before. Because, you know, you feel like this guy's been killing people for years. And I mean, of course he had, and somehow got away with it.
Yep.
But, you know, it's the only thing that I thought towards the end, I don't know if it's so much a flaw. I saw it as a flaw just because Claire, Trevor's sister, seems to figure everything out so quickly. But then in terms of what Trevor was up to, or what she was doing when she was trying to tell her to, you know, to call the cops, we got to get out of here. But it makes me think that she knew maybe, it's kind of like anything else, like when you know so much about someone, but you don't call them on it until you have to.
Yeah.
So I kind of saw it as that. It was a bit neat and tidy. I mean, she seemed to know a little more than maybe most people would. That was, I don't know how you felt about that. I don't know if that ever struck you as being false or.
The only thing that really kind of like got, you know, kind of seemed a little bit out of place is when Claire Trevor decides, like immediately after the boyfriend, she goes on instinct, and she's like, you know, tells him basically, yeah, go ahead, call the police type of thing. You know, he'll be here around midnight, and that like. For a character that we've seen and we followed, be so cold and calculating, like all the way through.
Yeah.
To have this, like, I guess for her, even for her, she gets to this breaking point. And so I guess, you know, that was one point where I was like, but then like, no, it makes sense because her character is there. It is like she feels now that. Because she always feels like her foster sister, basically, she's the one with the money, she has the control, so she has to find other ways to control things, to control people.
Right.
And she loses, you know, so much near the end. And she realizes that her foster sister, again, she still has control. She still has the guy that she wants. And rather than like just where they could have went in a really predictable way, for instance. Right. Just had her go after tyranny and kind of melodramatic it up a lot. Yeah. Which is where you would see a lot of films around that period go. Yeah. But instead you go in a very different way and like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, he's what we want. Not still to like you said earlier, not still to the point of not ready to take onus of the fact that she's been like this long before Lawrence Tierney's came around. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I love actually I saw this just for the first time like 5 days ago,
And I had thought that she had said something at the end, like, where have I gone wrong or something. And then I thought, let me just, before I met you, I thought, let me just see that ending. What did she say? And then what she says, I don't know if you remember, but what she says is, she refers to the fiance as saying, you're not going to always land on your feet. And so again, it's almost like the criminal who just keeps getting caught. So she doesn't learn her lesson, even in death. She just couldn't quite face her actions or try to change.
It was one last plot for her. Like for her at this point, when she goes in, okay, yeah, so she's ready, okay. Even though she kind of, as much as she can love, I guess, she loves like Tierney's character. I don't think she can love, but like she's at least infatuated with Tierney's character. This is the next. Here's a chessboard right here. The next, the next like
chess
move on her chessboard is basically, okay, let's kill Tierney. He'll probably, he'll feel bad for me. She'll get the fiance back.
Exactly. Yeah.
And of course, obviously that does not work out that way.
Right.
But no, it's utterly fantastic across the board.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was. I think it's one of the best noirs I've seen. I find it as a big fan of the genre. I'm surprised I hadn't seen it before. I had heard about it many times, and I love Robert Wise, who did The Big Knife.
Isn't that such a shock? Like you got such like a nice, like affable director like Robert Wise, and doing this like really like cynical film,
right?
Which is very much like he'd done like other films, of course, like but nothing to this level.
No,
of, like darkness, and this was the film that put him on the A level.
Yeah,
like he was.
Basically,
he was a B director.
Right.
And this film, even though this film, which is kind of ironic because this film did not do well.
Yeah.
Critics kind of like pummeled it at the time.
Well, I think people were just like couldn't believe it. They were just the shock of it.
It was it's way ahead of its time.
Oh yeah. But I mean, even now, I think it would be like, wow, it holds up.
But even though like Tierney, and I guess it's his own, like, unfortunately his own doing that he didn't go. And he still did well, actually. He was in Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
He did a bunch of stuff. But I guess he could have been like a big Hollywood
I think
star.
so,
His brother was, actually.
Who was his brother again?
Gerard Tierney, otherwise known as Scott Brady. Hollywood actor Scott Brady is changed his name.
Oh, that's right, because of his. I read that because of Lawrence Tierney's reputation. Yeah, because I mean, he was a really good actor, and when you see him in films like Reservoir Dogs, he's this this big guy, right? And you wouldn't, and even like something like Seinfeld, he's known for, right? As Elaine's father.
It was always problematic. Like when they did Reservoir Dogs, Tarantino fired him.
Yeah.
And rehired him during making the film.
I didn't know. I only recently heard that in the last, I don't know, few years or so. And I read about it again. Yeah, apparently he was like, again, really, really, really difficult and violent. I don't know where his demons lied. Did you read that article by Eddie Muller when this was?
I did a few years back. Is that the one about where he goes to the opening?
Yeah. In '99. Really oh, it's brilliant. If anyone, I should leave the link below in the description box, but. I'll leave it at basically Lawrence Tierney. He was in bad health. He couldn't even walk very well, and he had to go to the washroom. He just asked Eddie Muller to give him a cup and pissed in it.
Yeah.
In front of, and then anytime someone looked, he was like, he was like,
Persia or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my God! And I think he said to a woman, "Haven't you ever seen a cock before?" Like just insane. He was a character. Oh my God!
Apparently, he stole a knife on the set of Seinfeld.
Yeah. I read that.
It was. So he was one of those guys.
Yeah, I read that, and Jerry Seinfeld was like, "Did you?" I could just see Jerry Seinfeld too. Did you steal that knife by any chance?
And he's like, "I was going to do a psycho thing."
Yeah.
But he was always trying to get away with stuff. I think alcohol was a big thing.
Yeah.
For him. He was going
Someone
to
should
jail
write a book on him.
Again.
Is there a book on him?
There was almost a book on him. There was a guy that was going to write a book on him, and I'm not sure. I think there's a falling out or something, and the book ended up not getting written.
Oh shit!
And Tierney ended up getting passed. Anybody
I did
to do a
read
book
that.
On Tierney would be fantastic.
Yes, totally someone's got to put a book on Tierney because this guy. It's a miracle that he. I think now. There's just no way anyone would hire him. But at that time, the amount, and even then his career went down because of his behavior.
Oh my
but his
God.
behavior was so bad.
He was in jail all the time.
Yeah, yeah. But you're right. I mean, as you said off the top of the video, very much who the guy he plays is. The
Hopefully not the killing
temperament.
part.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
You know, but just the violent instincts and the temperament. But another thing I wanted to add on to what you said is, yeah, I mean, he is exactly like Claire Trevor, the quote unquote femme fatale. I mean, out for he's interested in Claire Trevor, and as he says, I can get anything I want if I put my mind to it. As soon as he knows that the sister is the one with the money, he just goes. Yeah. It's not about looks. It's all about money, and that's a big thing in noir. Is all about post World War consumerism and money.
But for him, I think even more, it's about the power.
Yeah.
And I think when he finds out that she runs a newspaper.
That's right, because he wants to head it. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, that's one of the one time that he doesn't really get what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
And because they come home early from their honeymoon, and the reason they come home early is because he said that he wanted to run the newspaper, and she said, you don't have any experience running a newspaper.
Right.
And he's really upset about it.
Yeah.
He gets a tantrum, and we don't see him get his way, which is different in a film like this. You would expect, okay, and then he's run the paper, and then things will come from there.
That's true. Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. So this movie takes all the conventions and puts them in front of us in the places where we think they're going to go.
Yeah.
And then it turns and says, "Oh, we're not going there." But
exactly.
There's something else that we're doing totally.
Yeah. They make it, as I said, more complex, more closer to life, more as how we'd like, how something like this may go. Because people do that all the time. I'm gonna do this. I can do this. I'm the best. And then sure enough, they're talking ego. I mean, he really believes that he can run a newspaper. I mean, where does he get the ego
exactly
to think that he could do that? And then he won't even take a start. And she says take a starting position, and he won't even. He's that egotistical.
Too much pride.
Yeah. Something I wanted to ask you, and I always ask my guests about when we talk noir, is, I mean, what does noir mean to you? I mean, some people are such purists, and it has to have a femme fatale and stuff. What do you think? I mean, do you think it has to have certain ingredients, or is there a looseness to the genre?
There's more of a looseness than I think than a lot of people go. There are purists that are going to say, well, you have to have this, and this. I think it's more of a feeling, a prevalation of dread, and of basically noir's never happy. If it ends happy, it's not a noir. So, but obviously you go on from noir to in the 80s with the neo-noir with things like Flipped by in LA.
Yeah.
And again, another brilliant film, by the way.
Oh yeah, I love that. Frankenheimer.
Oh,
sorry, not Frankenheimer, Friedkin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for me, no, it's just it's one of those. It started in the days of German Expressionism.
Right.
It was coming off the war. It's coming off of a time when people were. There was the depression, and then there was war, and there was suddenly money, and money that had came in the U.S. from profiteering, from the war. That's when you really think back. Okay, the U.S. wasn't doing so well, and then war happened, and they were doing pretty good.
Yeah.
So you get all these aspects of the way society is and the way it's changing, and it kind of bleeds in to this genre, and noir starts back in the silent days, but it just it keeps reinventing itself and finding its footing. Now there was time with censorship where they were like, okay, you can't do this and you can't do that. And this one really got away with it.
Oh yeah.
I was amazed the first time that I saw this. It was I was a kid, I guess, when I first saw it. Yeah. But even I didn't notice so much then, but as I got older and I read up on the Hays Code and all what happened afterwards, and realized, oh my God, they got away with a lot.
They really did. I mean, that was what was so clever about the writers. I mean, I had read that some of the writers back then actually liked the restrictions because they like to see how they can code things, and people talking about sex without actually ever using any kind of language. Where it's so interesting if you watch the pre-code films and people talk openly about sex and you're like, what the So if you don't know the history, it can be quite daunting.
But again, I always thought with this film here that Lawrence Tierney is the femme fatale.
Yeah.
It's the femme fatale role. And you know, because film noirs are, again, like there's a highly sexualization in there,
Yeah.
and it's not her this time. She's extremely cold.
Right.
He's extremely passionate.
Yeah.
And you can see, because he has the chemistry. He's a big dude, but he's got the chemistry, and he's got the, you know, the thing where you can, oh, I can see why she would go for it.
Yeah.
Lawrence
Oh,
Tierney.
he's aware of his looks. He's aware that he's a handsome.
Yeah, and
that people like his.
but like even
you know.
beyond it, like the fact that he has this kind of like dark magnetism.
Yeah.
And these two people find each other that are perfectly suited for each other, and the worst thing that can happen to either one of them
Right.
at the same time.
That's a very good point.
And that's you know, that sums up the film.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
Yeah, when you're too much alike, right? Boom, everything
Oh, yeah.
doesn't work.
Especially in this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Any final words on
Like-
this film?
It's one of my favorites. I would recommend checking it out if you like film noir, or if you're just getting into it, or you just like really good acting performances.
Yeah.
Lawrence Tierney is amazing in this. Claire Trevor, again, is fantastic. Elijah Cook Jr., Esther Howard just are brilliant. Walter Slezak takes a role that could have just been like a small part or just kind of insignificant,
Yeah.
and does this whole other aspect to it.
Yeah.
Everything is elevated in this film. Like, this could have been very flat.
Yeah, I agree.
But the fact that every person is just on their A game, and even like you got a guy that like Tierney, and you think, oh my God, this must be, how did they get this film made with a guy like this?
Yeah.
But apparently, Claire Trevor had said that he was very professional when they were making the film.
I read that, and I gotta thank you again for suggesting it, because I don't know when I would have caught up with it.
It's a fantastic.
So yeah, no, it's really great, and I know it's on the free internet library stream called archive.org. Have you ever
is
heard
it?
of that?
I know of it, but I've never been there.
Okay, yeah, because they have like a lot of old, not only just film noir, but a lot of just old classic Hollywood movies, and it's an internet library basically. And so you can see it there for free. I'll leave the link in the description box below if you haven't seen it, or if you want to see it again. Well, Aaron, thanks again. This was great. We got to do it in person.
My pleasure, man.
Here in Sydney, where I'm visiting, where Aaron lives, Sydney, Nova Scotia, that is. So thanks so much, everyone, for tuning in. If this is your first time here, please consider subscribing by pressing the Robert Bellissimo at the Movies logo that you will see floating above my head right here to your top left right now. And then click the bell in order to get a notification every time I release a new video or when I go live. Thanks so much, folks. I'll see you next time.